conference as possible, and he's planning on sharing all of that experience and expertise with you here today, along with the committee. So Brian and team.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and I'd like to introduce the other presenters today. Frank Bedford-Helen is a financial advisor with Merrill Lynch, and Scott Planer with Blueprint Financial, also a financial advisor, ambassadors with the Rockland Chamber, and members of the Power Networking Committee. Now, I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge two other members of our committee who aren't presenting today, but without their assistance and input, today's presentation wouldn't have been possible. So I'd like to acknowledge Allison Huggett in the back, as well as Paul Conti, and thank them for their contributions as well. So we're very excited to bring you today's presentation about networking. And you see, this is a very, very close subject to me, near and dear to me, as Rebecca mentioned, because I don't like making cold calls. I don't like receiving cold calls either. So this isn't about me though. This isn't just about their opinions or Allison and Paul's. Much of this has been pulled from resources and mentors that we've encountered along the way as professionals. We're going to allude to some of these mentors and some of these resources. And in fact, in the pamphlets, you'll see a couple of pages from the book, It's More Than Wine and Meatballs. This book was written by Janice Jordan, who was presented here previously. We're also going to allude to ex-FBI agent Joe Navarro in his book, What Everybody Is Saying, when it comes to body language later on in the presentation. And for those that are familiar with Darren Hardy from Success Magazine, you may hear sentiments that he echoes in his nationwide broadcasts and podcasts. So thank you all for coming. Speaking of Darren Hardy, I've heard him mention that networking will have more to do with your future success than your net worth, your skill sets, and your experience combined. Now, we've all heard the adage that it's not what you know, it's who you know. That couldn't be more important and more true than today's society. I mean, look at the way that we broadcast looking for new employment or employees by the use of social media. Networking has become a very powerful tool. Now, we're not going to go ahead and explain or define what networking is. I'm sure you all are aware of what networking is and the importance of building and sustaining new relationships. We're not going to sell you a particular platform, group, or even medium to use, except for the Rockland Chamber of Commerce, of course, because we love the Rockland Chamber of Commerce here. With that said, what today's presentation is all about is what are you doing when you're out there networking? What are you saying? What's your body saying? How do you make the first impression count? And how do you work with the network with the competition? When we get networking, I'd like to go around the room real quick and have everybody introduce themselves. In the sake of time, let's go ahead and just stick with our names and the company that we work with, and we'll return to this later and expand on it in a future section. Would you like to go ahead and start us off, please?
Sure. I'm Roger Ramirez with Stand Up Plaza.
Alicia Moore, owner of Waxman City in Rockland.
Lindsay Moran with Tupperware.
Paul Conti, Remax Gold.
Perfect.
Jeb Osborne, TRI Commission.
Jerry Bishop with Top Shelf Technologies.
Tim Shelbeck, Crystal Blue Plumbing, Heating and Air.
Janet Miranda with Catering and Sign. Don Smith, Capital Healthcare Advocates.
Patrick Shabazz, Social Parents.
My name is Nathan, and I'm with Best Cleaning Team.
Louise Chilbeck, also a stand-up pastor.
Judy Moore, Placer County Employment Services.
Leela Mikey, Opal Training Group.
Is Mariana Valerie Vivas with Rugby.
Will Hamilton with Morgan Stanley.
Karen Twitch with Calgary.
Tom Ralston, Alliant Real Estate.
Noah Hyder, DT Cyber Solutions.
Quinn Shidani with the Shidani Law Firm.
Hi everyone, I'm Deanna Menendez. I'm with Mass Mutual.
Jen Savalon with Placer County.
And Michael?
Allison Huggett, Texas County.
Michael Traceville with Prime Pay.
Robin Shumble with Rockland Chamber. Sabrina Robertson with the Rockland Chamber.
Perfect, thank you all. Now we have the introductions out of the way. Let's go ahead and dive into our first exercise. We want to take a fun, simple look at how we're planning and implementing our time when it comes to our networking activities. So to go over the first page found in your packets, The Power of Networking Self-Assessment, please help me welcome Frank Bedford-Helen, who will go over the assessment.
Hello, thank you, Brian. So that's what happens at a networking event. Who you are, what your business is, that's a good way to open the door. But without a lecture, with every lecture, there's always a pop quiz. So the first page of your packet is just that. The Power of Networking Self-Assessment. So if you want to take a minute and follow along with the questions as I read, we'll get a good gauge of where we are and how we plan for these networking events. So if you look at your sheet there, it says, question 1. So have you written a clear and well-defined strategic objectives for your current networking activities? So for example, you all decided to come here today. So we can go down to question 2. Do you have a scheduled plan of action for your networking? And the thing that I like about this is when you go to, for example, the chamber mixer. Do you want to meet certain people? Do you want to meet people of certain industries? What specifically your business? Or you just want to make friends? So continuing into at social functions, do you walk in with a commitment to leave with the names of 3 new people who might help you meet your personal and professional goals? So for example, I saw some people networking here who might want to change industries or find people services in the community. Question 4, do you follow up quickly and appropriately with people you connect with? Things like LinkedIn, Facebook, sending them an email if you get their card or a phone call, some way to connect to them. And the best way to connect with them is question 5. Do you keep an organized, accessible file on people that you've met? So for those of us in the finance industry, we have to take very detailed notes for lots of legal reasons, but documenting birthdays, anniversaries, kids' names, things like that, gives you a reason to call somebody, gives you a reason to make another touch to them to get back into their presence. Question 6, do you schedule a specific time each week to reconnect with people? Again, using the data that you've collected, say it's the 4th of July. Hey, are you bringing little Mikey to the event fireworks today? I just wanted to see if we can get our families together. Something like that. Question 7, do you review your resources to seek out interesting new activities, opportunities that might help you meet your personal and career goals? Again, today, we've all researched, we all found this activity today, and you're definitely going to improve your networking abilities after being here. Question 8, do you schedule a specific time each week to confer with people who can help you advance your career goals? Now this is something that's touchy because the quote that comes to mind is a lumberjack gets paid by the amount of trees that he fells. He doesn't get paid by sharpening his axe. But which one of those is going to provide the most value? So we go down to question 9. Do you set aside time each week, most importantly, for recreation? And all work and no play, obviously, it makes Jack a dull boy. So lastly, have you met with a new networking acquaintance in the last month? And you can all say yes to that right now. So if you want to take a moment, give yourself 10 points for each yes answer, 5 points for every sometimes, and unfortunately nothing for never or no. Another 30 seconds for people to finish. So, the self-assessment answer key. So 50 to 70 points. Perfect. You're in the average category. You do just enough planning to make sure that you have a clear and concise commitment to what you're going to get out of your networking events. 75 plus, excellent. Tell us what you're doing because we'd love to learn from you as well. So then of course, if you have less than 45, by the end of this seminar today, you'll be at least above, if not beyond, your scores that you came in with. So now that we have our little fun pop quiz out of the way, I'm going to turn it back to Brian, who's going to teach us a little bit more about the power of positive language and positive thinking.
Thank you, Frank. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. Like I said, a quick, fun way to look at what we're planning, if we are planning, and maybe some areas that could improve upon, even spending time with loved ones at home. Now, on to the power of positive language, and furthermore, positive thinking. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, as someone who has realized that they've been misunderstood in the past. In fact, with language, it's funny. You may be saying one thing to the person whom you're speaking. For some reason, they could be hearing something entirely different. So I'd like to go over a few things that we've noticed at networking events in general, and hopefully that you guys will get a little bit of insight as to some language that you may be able to change yourself to make yourself more effective. The first one I'd like to go over is the word should. Now, in the previous assessment, you may think, especially if you're new to this, or maybe a little shy, oh no, I should be meeting at least 3 new people at every networking event. Maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 2, depending on the event and size. Nonetheless, telling yourself you should be doing this, it might feel a little constrictive, right? Should has with it a connotation and consequences. We may not realize it. But the word can, however, can is full of opportunity. Can invites us to look at the possibilities. So instead of telling yourself you should be meeting however many people, maybe we can reframe it as we can meet this many people. The same goes with the word try. I hear this a lot, especially when people introduce themselves. They'll tell you what they're trying to do. They're trying to make this much this year. They're trying to connect with a specific person. And let's think about that for a moment. It's not the most confident sounding way to achieve that goal, is it? So instead of telling us what you're trying to do, maybe telling us what you are doing, or what you are planning on doing. Maybe mentioning to someone whom you'd like to connect with. Maybe let them know what your goals are for the year. Just a thought. And another one is the word can't. This one I personally don't like. If you're telling yourself you can't, you might be right. So instead of telling yourself you can't do something, ask yourself, how can I do this? Another set of words that I think is important to look out for are the me, myself, and I's. If you hear those coming out of your mouth more than the people whom you're speaking with, it may be time to pause, ask some questions, and listen more. After all, we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. I'd like to move on to more of an idea at this point than a set of words. And that's if you're not sure to ask. Have you ever had someone want to sell you something that maybe you weren't in the market for? Maybe you already have that product or service. Instead of asking, they continue going about the benefits. You politely decline, and they shift into high gear. Never bothering to ask if that's something that you're interested in. So I personally like to ask people if they're in the market for the services or the products that I provide. This does 2 things. First, it gives them an opportunity to tell you what they know and what they think about what you do for a living. The second, it makes you aware if they're a decision maker. So you say your pitch for the right time, right? Because we're networking here. This is about building new relationships, not necessarily selling to every person you meet. So by giving them that opportunity to explain to you what they know and what they feel, you now have a little bit more knowledge, and you can change whether you're going to continue networking or maybe push for a sale. The other is, have you ever had somebody tell you that you wouldn't understand a particular item, idea, or benefit to a product or service? I have. In fact, I've been taught to use that certain corporate sales seminars. When it comes to networking, this may not be the best idea. Again, you may want to ask the person. This will give you an opportunity to learn what they know and how they feel about your product or service, rather than assuming that they don't know. You never know. You may work with someone today who was a rocket scientist last year. Now, last bit of advice I have is to be yourself. And I say that because I know what it's like to want to be liked when you walk into a room full of new people. You want them to look up to you, you want them to like you, and want to work with you, right? The problem is I think that sometimes we apply a little too much of a filter and we don't give enough of ourselves. See, when we're networking, we're building relationships. It's important that people have an idea of who you are. Now, yes, we do want to use a little bit of a filter. We don't want to kick the door and start making crazy political or social comments. Nonetheless, let people know a little bit about you. And to go a little bit deeper about you, who you are, being yourself, I'd like to bring Frank back up to go over some core value assessments. Frank?
So this topic is going to help us answer the how do I describe myself? And this is right out of my wheelhouse because I'm a master of communication. I've trained very heavily in this, and I think it's a fascinating subject because, yes, there's sales. We all selling a product or services, but in a sense, we're always selling ourselves. So who do we want to be? How do we define ourselves? And knowing our core values is really where we can get started with that. So I'd like to read this to you for the specificity of our educational purposes. A value proposition is a concise statement intended to demonstrate the role you can play in a customer's life. A well thought out and clearly articulated value proposition can help you demonstrate the following: your core values, the meaningful activities that you do to engage others, such as volunteering in the community, being involved with nonprofits or vocational services, or even as a chamber member. This will help exemplify the impact you can have on your clients' lives, not just what you do, but who you are as a person. Defining your value proposition will help you succinctly and clearly explain the why, what, and how we do what we do each day. So using this high-level language shows a clear commitment to the clients that you plan to work with. Understanding that clients have unique concerns, priorities, goals, and values are the motivations behind why clients work with you. How clients can benefit from working with you as opposed to others is illustrated with a clearly articulated value proposition. So where do we start? Knowing your values, your core values, why you chose to get in the business you're doing, what you do each day, and how you can help others by your products, services, and the like. This will help you not pick, but attract the right clients. It helps them get a sense that you comprehend the needs of their primary demographic. If you go into certain networking groups, niche marketing, for example, your overall business focus and what you do to engender that client commitment and loyalty, and an understanding of how others can benefit from working with you. So if we turn to our next page, our core values questionnaire. So the core values, what drives me? And I'll just read them aloud now, but I want you to go home tonight and take a good, thoughtful look at yourselves and ask these questions so you can get a feeling of how to answer them correctly. But really quickly, so we can explain, if you could have more of one quality instantly, what would it be? For me and the guys up here, we really wanted to learn how to articulate ourselves. So we took it upon ourselves to be better communicators, better connectors, better networkers, and all of that. Who is the person you respect most in your life, and what are their values? Do you idolize parents, friends, relatives? What mentor have you looked up to, and what are their qualities, not just what they do? What are the 3 most important values that I want to pass on to my children? For those of you with children or without children, who can you inspire in the community, and what values can you teach them? And if you're teaching a graduating high school class specific values that would give them the best opportunity for success, what would they be? I remember when I was in high school that Always Wear Sunscreen song was on. So if you had enough money to retire tomorrow, would those values that you hold today continue to hold as you have less stress, less worry, less fears, and all of your needs are met? But the most important one, I think, is looking at your number one value. Does it help you answer the question, are you the cause or effect of your own life? A lot of people, they tend to think they're in the cause of the situations. I wake up every day with a purpose. Well, if you're not in the driver's seat of your own car, you're not necessarily going to end up where you want to end up. So as you look at your values and take a good assessment of why I'm in this business, what I'm doing, how am I doing it, it'll help you answer that question a little bit more clearly. So let's bring Brian back up to get more of a reason of why we use these values.
Thank you, Frank. So yes, the reason we took a look at our values inside ourselves is because it will help us understand what drives us, and when we know what drives us, we'll be better adept at letting the world know how we can help them, the value that we provide to them. Now, if you're looking at a creative way to put those into words, this will segue into our next exercise. And before we get there, I just want to ask if anyone has ever been to an event and they've met someone who gives the most complicated introduction about what they do for a living. Maybe you've even done this, especially if you're new and a little uncomfortable. But what I do is reduce operational expenditures and leverage global marketplaces to realign the stars and align up with your market practices, competitive procedures. I mean, really, it sounds cool when you're crafting it, right? But the reality is, nobody in the room really has an idea what you do for a living. And furthermore, they're kind of afraid to ask. So I get it. Saying that you sell insurance, you're a banker, a real estate agent, doesn't have that much pizzazz, right? Well, we want to walk the line between the two, don't we? We want to make sure that we're clear and concise, yet at the same time show a little bit of creativity and understanding of our own niche, our market, or our field. So to go over some very creative methods to come up with a new introduction and a 60-second commercial, I'd like everyone to please help me welcome up Scott Planer. Scott.
Hello, I'm Scott Planer, financial advisor, XYZ Financial Services. Most of us in the room are entrepreneurs. As entrepreneurs, we work very hard to cover our overheads and provide for our family. We also know we have to put a lot of our money that we make, earn so hard, back into our business. We do this for growth and to make our business sustainable. But what we forget about is someday we're going to be done working, and we need to plan for when that day comes. Sounds a little scary, I know, but that's why you need to meet with the financial advisor now to start that conversation. You never know when the time's gonna come. It's gonna be uncomfortable at first, but you'll get through it. And believe me when I tell you, when you start on an actual plan, the sense of relief you'll feel because you know you're on a plan and not just guessing. I would love to start that conversation with you today. So remember, Scott Planer, financial advisor, XYZ Financial. So this was an example of a complete 60-second commercial. I said my name, what I do, I used my title, and the business I worked for. I made sure the topic of my commercial was relevant to the audience in the room. And then at the end, I wrapped it up by repeating my name, what I do for a living, and the name of my business. These are the very basics of a commercial. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy mornings to join us. And I want to talk to you for a few minutes about creating a good 60-second commercial. So, morning comes, you're going to go to a networking group. Maybe this is your first time at the group, completely new to it, you know no one. Or maybe this is just your first time going to a networking event, period, and you're really nervous. You walk in the room, start going around the room, doing their 60-second commercial, and you start thinking, oh man, it's gonna come to me. What am I gonna say? I don't know what I'm gonna say. And then fear sets in. Fear because you're not sure what you're going to say. Fear because you don't know anybody in the room. And fear because, am I even doing it right? These 60-second commercials are done everywhere. If you go to the Rockland Chamber, Sunrise with the Chamber, they do it there. If you go to the Rockland Chamber breakfast, they actually pass around a microphone and you gotta stand up. BNI does it. Literally every networking group does it out there. So you have to be prepared. So what we want to do is provide you with some basic tools to help you get through those first few times. Give you some technique. Because if we have technique, it can help create that comfort zone so that you can come across and present yourself as confident and knowledgeable. After you do it a few times, it'll get easier for you. You'll figure out what works for you. And pretty soon you'll be able to stand up in a room full of strangers with no problem and make your commercial count. We all want to make that first impression count, so projecting confidence is really powerful. So one of the tools that we have to use is this handout, another handout. So this is the how to create your 60-second commercial worksheet. It says it in the right upper corner of the packet. So what I want you to do is get a pen out, if you have it, and we'll go through it real quick. Don't overthink this. It's really basic, kind of like a mind dump or just coming up with words that you can come up with. So the first lines, you're going to come up with 6 words that help describe what it is that you do. Like I said, don't overthink it. Just real basic. Kind of brainstorm. What are 6 words that describe what you do? For me, as a representative of the chamber, I can think of, as a chamber member, we connect. We are marketing. We're volunteering, networking in business, community. So those are some ideas for me as a representative, if I was going to do this as a representative of the chamber. How's everybody doing? Getting close? It looks like most people are getting there. So the next section the lines go across. So what I want you to do is take 3 words and incorporate some of those first 6 words to describe what it is that you do. So like for me, I'd say, as a chamber member, connecting and promoting business, building community by volunteering, painting houses, whatever it is that you do. Give me 3 words that kind of describe what you do real quick.
I'm not quite sure I'm following that one, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So you take the 6 words above and do what again?
Try and put, you don't have to use all 6 in the same line,
Okay.
but maybe one. So like in here, I use connect was one of my 6 words. So in the 3 words, I used connecting and promoting business. So maybe catering and delivering food. Providing meals on site. Do we have any engineers out there? People thinking a lot? So then that would take us to the next one. And this is kind of just a gradual thing. This is just kind of brainstorming to help you out. When you get there in real person and you're at a networking group, you can kind of go through this in your head. But the next one is, you want to take 7 words to describe yourself. Kind of like a mini commercial, like you did. You stood up, you said, "Hi, I'm, Scott Planer, XYZ financial advisor." Use 7 words. Kind of just give yourself a quick commercial there. Try and use some of the phrases and words that you've used from the previous 2 sections. Art, come and help us. To help make this a little easier, the last section of this worksheet is where you're going to actually write a 60-second commercial. But I'm going to give you some, we're going to keep going along here, and I'm going to give you 5 things to help kind of key in with this. So the first one being, on the intro, make sure I give my business and my name. So, hello, my name is Scott Planer, and I'm with the Rockland Chamber. Basically, that's their start. I'm Sharon Hoyt, Sharon Hoyt Photography. Right, that's your start, your intro. Very basic, pretty easy. Then secondly, describe what your product or service is and what's in it for them. Good example, the Rockland Chamber offers unique advertising, marketing, and network opportunities that allow you to grow your business. So, it doesn't have to be maybe quite that in-depth, but again, just kind of describe what it is that you're doing and what's in it for them. The third point would be your needs. Describe who you're looking for, who's your target market, who's a great referral for you. The Rockland Chamber is looking for great local businesses that are looking to expand and get involved in their community. Okay, kind of starting to tie it all together. And then give them something to do. Come join us at a networking event. Let's get together and have coffee. You know, come to our meeting next week. You'll really like it. Something like that. And then the fifth one is a memorable tagline or hook. And I want to take a second to talk about that. Tagline or hook. If you have one, that's great. Use it. Some of them are really catchy and memorable. And if that's how people remember you, why not? A few good examples. A couple chamber members. Kathy Rowe is a Rockland Chamber member, and she's an insurance agent. And if you've ever been to Sunrise at the Chamber, she always finishes her 60-second commercial with, "Good insurance is no accident." It's a good one. My friend Rick Murray fixes computers, and he says, if your computer's sick, call Rick. That, see, kind of makes you laugh. And then another chamber members, Sherry and Dudley Adair, who are nutritional counselors, they always end their 60-second commercial with, "It's never a great day to start a diet, but it's always a great day to get healthy." So again, taglines, not mandatory, but if you have them, use them, because it's a great way for people to connect you to your business. So go ahead, take a little bit of time now, write yourself a little commercial, and then we're going to share it with, I want you to share it with your neighbors. Let's first start with just writing out your commercial. Right, come to Sunrise with the Chamber tomorrow morning. How's everybody doing? Getting close?